This is an overview of cellular respiration. The chapter you can go to in your Shark book is Chapter 4, Section 4, to look at cellular respiration, all of these things I'm going to speak about. If you are interested in looking at photosynthesis, you can go to 4.2 and 4.3 as well. But Section 4 in the book is where this comes from. So the main equation for cellular respiration is that glucose is a reactant. It goes into cellular respiration. Animals obtain glucose for cellular respiration by eating, and plants make glucose from photosynthesis. Oxygen is also a reactant. It goes into cellular respiration, and it comes from us breathing oxygen in. With the help of enzymes, it produces the main goal, which is ATP, but also two waste products, carbon dioxide and water. Now we breathe both of those out. Well, we breathe carbon dioxide and water out, and water escapes in other ways as well from our bodies. But the goal is to make ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. So this is the equation, the big picture that you need to know. Now, this flowchart outlines cellular respiration, and it basically goes down one road for one step, and then it splits. It's like a fork in the road. And so we have two options. With oxygen, we go down this road, and without oxygen present to cells, we go down this road. They're called aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So this video is just going to outline glycolysis, and then I will stop at the Krebs cycle, where the Krebs cycle begins. Now, one more note about this picture is that these boxes are for molecules. So we start with the glucose molecule, but then through the process of glycolysis, we produce a pyruvate molecule. And then through the process of the Krebs cycle, and then the process of the electron transport chain, we gain ATP from aerobic respiration. So important to note is that the boxes are molecules and the ovals are processes. So I'll continue here. Now, this is the same picture as we did before in photosynthesis, where the descriptions match the numbers. So in glycolysis, we start out with glucose, and we end up with something called pyruvate. So all these intermediates are not necessarily going to be assessed, but what's important for you to understand is that we start with glucose, which is a 6-carbon sugar. Then we manipulate it by adding 2 ATP and other things like NAD plus and phosphate, and it changes its shape all the way to turn into 2,3-carbon pyruvate. And what's important for you to note is that 2 ATP go into the reaction, but 4 come out. So you can go ahead and write this down. I won't expect you to memorize these, but those are the details of glycolysis. Now, in glycolysis, 2 ATP are used in step 1, and 4 ATP are produced in step 4. That's referencing the 2 ATP used in step 1 and the 4 ATP produced in step 4. So how many ATP are made total in the breakdown of glucose? And of course the answer is 2, because you put 2 in, you get 4 out, and the net result is 2. Now if you go back to this chart, you can see that when glucose is converted into pyruvate through glycolysis process, we net 2 ATP, and that's where they come from as far as the details of this process. Okay? Now, if you kind of dissected glycolysis and wrote down the things that go in and the things that come out, this is what you would end up with. Glucose goes in, 4 ADP also go in, and 2 ATP, 2 NAD+, and 2 P, which are phosphate groups. It yields the products 2 pyruvate, 2 ADP, 4 ATP, 2 NADH, and 2 hydrogen ions. Now if you simplify this equation, and you cancel out what you can. In other words, for example, we can cancel out 2 ATP here because we have 4 over here, and so we cross out the 4 and write a 2. We have 2 ADP here, but 4 over here, so we can completely cross that one out and reduce that one to 2 ADP. And so if we simplify it, we see what totally goes in and comes out. Glucose, 2 ADP go in, NAD+, 2 phosphate, and what comes out is 2 pyruvate, 2 ATP, 2 NADH, and 2 hydrogen ions. The important part of this equation is the pyruvate and the 2 ATP. So this thing right here corresponds with these 2 ATP produced in glycolysis. Now I'll go one step further and then I'll start up my video over. After glycolysis, in aerobic respiration, pyruvate enters the mitochondrion. Now glycolysis occurs, I don't think I said this, in the cytoplasm. Alright, so it does not occur in the mitochondria, it just happens in the cytoplasm of the cell. But after glycolysis, pyruvate enters the mitochondrion, and then through a series of reactions, it makes this compound called acetyl-CoA. I don't need you to analyze these processes and understand what happens, but I have to go from pyruvate to acetyl-CoA to go on to the next phase. The next phase is the Krebs cycle, and I'll do a separate video over it. So just to review the most important parts of this, we started with glucose. Through the process of glycolysis, we've made pyruvate, and we have made also 2 ATP in that process. Pyruvate then turns into acetyl-CoA, and we go on to the Krebs cycle. We're going down this path in the next video.